I'm a believer that this team's going to win the national championships.
The rivalries, it's up there on top of the list, man. And if we allow them to devalue it, we lose a lot of what makes college football special. Don't let them do it. Don't let them devalue what it means to you.
Juck, appreciate. Hey, welcome in. It's your friend Juck. Appreciate you so much for joining me. I've got the camera set up a little different today, guys. Tell me how you feel. I got it zoomed in a little bit, a little less background, a little more Juck. I was playing around with this green screen. I got this $35 green screen from Amazon, and I wanted to check it out and see what it was like to mess with the green screen, throw some different things up in the background. So I did a little quarterback video with the green screen, playing around with it. Let me know what you think. Should I use it for shorts? I was thinking maybe I'll use it for shorts. I don't want to use it for my normal videos, but I did want to check it out once. So I messed with it, and now I'm not changing the camera settings as I noticed that I don't know, bigger. I'm bigger on the screen than I usually am, but that's not a big deal, right? I don't think so. Anyway, I want to talk transfer portal for a minute here as we start the show. The Buckeyes grab one more, and that should do it. That should be it for this class of 2025. Now we've seen the Buckeyes be active participants in 3 transfer portal classes, 2023, 2024, 2025. How have they done altogether in the transfer portal? I think they've done a damn good job. And when we look back at 2023, you had quite a few hits. You had a total of 9 players. 5 of those 9 players were 4-star rated portal rankings. And of those 4 stars, you've still got 2 of those 4 stars that are going to be starting on this 2025 team, Lorenzo Styles Jr., IGB. You also have Ty Malone, who will be a contributor. A couple guys didn't work out. Jahad Carter, Nigel Glover, both are gone. You had Josh Simmons, who was a 4-star, number 7 interior lineman in that portal class. Don't let anybody tell you he was some trash heap, obscure guy. He wasn't. He wasn't some guy just roaming the streets of San Diego. So you brought him in. Obviously, he's a stud off to the NFL. Vic Cutler and Tristan Gebbia. Tristan Gebbia was a 3-star in that class from Oregon State. So from that class, you got 1 first-rounder already. He's out of here. You got 2 guys who are going to be starters on this current 2025 team and a guy who's going to contribute. That's a pretty good haul. The portal class of 2024, we'll never see anything like it again because we'll never see the circumstances like that again, which is obviously Nick Saban retired, lost a lot of good players. One of them, the best defensive player in the country, Caleb Downs, who the Buckeyes just so happened to finish second in that recruitment. He comes to Ohio State. Then you get 5-star Julian Sayin, who will be the starting quarterback on the 2025 team. Also, the Remington Award winner comes from that team, though I think he was gone before Saban retired. That was a situation where he had to get the hell out of there. Then you get Quinshon Judkins, a second-round running back who contacts Ohio State to come up there and share the backfield with their second-round running back. The Big 12 champion quarterback who got pushed out by a younger kid comes and wins a national championship at Ohio State. We'll never see anything like that again. Everything just lined up perfectly. Of that 24 class, just 7 guys, Will Howard, Quinshon, Seth McLaughlin, all gone to the NFL. Julian, Caleb, starters on this 25 team. Obviously, Caleb is who he is. Julian might just be a superstar. Then you got Will Kazmarek coming back. He'll play a ton of snaps. The only guy in that class out of those 7 that wasn't a tremendous hit was Keenan Nelson Jr., who they brought in the spring portal class from South Carolina. I feel like nobody even acknowledges that guy exists. I never hear his name on anything, but he's a really cool dude and I like him. But a crazy good class that year. Now, going back to that 2023 class, Tristan Gebbia, the quarterback that came in, obviously from Oregon State, he knew he wasn't going to play, but he had interest in coaching, and he wanted to come and learn how to contribute in that way. And we talk a lot about recruits kind of playing the long game, the ones that come to Ohio State. They're playing the long game. They're not playing the instant gratification game. This guy, Tristan Gebbia, basically gave up playing football to come learn how to be a coach. He gave up a whole season. Pretty crazy. How's it working out so far? Well, he's a GA at Oregon State, so his career's off and running. Happy to see when I checked this morning that he is in coaching still, so I love that. So after a crowded quarterback room in 2024 that included Will Howard, Devin Brown, Lincoln Keenholz, Julian Sayin, and Aaron Noland, Will off to the NFL, 2 transfer out, and coming into 2025, you got just 3 quarterbacks. 3rd-year Lincoln Keenholz, 2nd-year Julian Sayin, true freshman Tavian St. Clair. We knew the Buckeyes would be looking for a fourth quarterback. Ryan Day always likes to have four, particularly with this crew where you got such young guys. And yesterday, Ohio State added that transfer portal quarterback, and his name is Eli Brickhammer. The name, man, Brickhammer. It's just like this guy. I could just picture him the moment he bobbles a snap, if we ever see him at Ohio State playing. Like the Brickhammer name is just going to be wonderful. But he's originally from Stockton, California, goes to North Carolina A&T, and then Houston Christian. And he's now a grad transfer with 2 years of eligibility left and a professional football player. The guy played professional football in Hungary for the something Sharks. I couldn't pronounce the city name. But at Houston Christian last year, threw for 557 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks, a completion percentage of 49.4. Will Howard, 73% completion percentage. That 49.4 is one of the lowest I've ever seen in my life. So it's a good thing that he ran for 264 yards and a couple of touchdowns. He's a pretty good athlete. I think Ohio State must love this guy's personality. They must think he's an awesome dude because he's not an awesome quarterback, but another practice quarterback, a scout team quarterback, and he can now take the place of Lincoln, who was running the scout team last year, because Lincoln obviously can't do that this year. That would have fallen on Tavian St. Clair. Well, if you can relieve Tavian from those responsibilities, you want him working with the quarterbacks, not with the scout team, because it's a whole different deal. You got to learn all the scout team plays, and you're working on that for game week. You're not working with, you're with the quarterbacks, but you're not taking those mental reps behind them, which you want Julian to have. So maybe Brickhammer wants to be a coach, but Ryan gets his fourth quarterback in the room. So goal accomplished. Now let's go over the class now that it's got a nice round number of 10 and it's complete, and project forward. How many of these guys are going to contribute like the class of 2023? You're looking at Simmons, IGB, Lorenzo Styles, 2024, Will, Quinn, Quinshawn, Caleb, Julian, Seth, Will Kazmarek. And I'm going to rank these guys. Could have done it a couple of different ways. Could have done it with impact, like who's going to make the biggest impact, but I want to do it on importance. How important was it that they got this guy? But let's start with who they lost. They lost 14 guys, which is a much smaller number than the previous year. They lost 2024, they lost 25 guys. In 2023, they lost 10 guys. 2022, they lost 20 guys. So it can get up to as high as 25. It can be as low as 10. And 14 this year, I'll take it. Who are the most impactful guys that are heading out? Number one, Hero Canoe, obviously, goes to Texas. You get nobody to replace him. Mitchell Melton heading to Virginia Tech. Virginia, not Virginia Tech. We don't talk about Mitch a ton, but we could have seen him getting a lot of playing time, and he could have been a pretty good player for the Buckeyes this year had he stayed. It might have changed the way they reacted in the transfer portal had he stayed. You lose Calvin Simpson-Hunt to Baylor. He gets passed up by Aaron Scott Jr., so that's kind of the recipe. When you get passed by a guy that's younger than you, you can usually count on a guy like that transferring out. I think he's a pretty talented dude. He'll do good down at Baylor. And we did lose a couple of fan favorites. Obviously, Aaron Noland certainly had a very large contingent of Buckeye fans who were really pulling for him over Julian Sayin, but the writing was kind of on the wall right off the rip when Julian Sayin passed up Lincoln Keenholz and Air didn't. Now you got a guy in between them, and it's like, yeah, I'm kind of in a hole here. So you can totally see why he did that. I can't see why he went to South Carolina to play behind Lenoris Sellers, a very young guy who is in the Heisman race this year. But I don't know, man. I'm certainly wishing him well because he's an awesome kid. But I'm certainly also rooting for Devin Brown, who somehow became a polarizing figure at Ohio State, despite just being the best Buckeye you could ever imagine. And a lot of split opinions. People saying he sucks just because he was involved in quarterback competitions. And, I hated the way it all went down. I wish that he was going to a Cal team that didn't just get decimated by the transfer portal so I could actually enjoy rooting for him. But the team's going to be terrible because they lost everybody. You lost Gabe Powers. A lot of fans really like Gabe Powers. He goes to Kansas State. I'm really going to enjoy him at Kansas State. He fits in well at Kansas State. A former Gatorade Ohio Player of the Year in high school out of Marysville. High school film was really fun to watch. The dude was running the ball. He was doing everything. But like Calvin Simpson-Hunt, he got passed up by a younger player in Peyton Pierce, and writing was on the wall. So he goes to K-State. We'll get to watch him over there. Jayden Bonsu. Bonsu goes to Pitt, and same scenario. He got passed up by Jalen McClain. You lose 2 wide receivers. Kojo Antwi to Colorado State. Jaden Ballard out of Massillon, a top 100 overall recruit, the fastest guy on the team, freaky tools and big at 6'2", 195. He's a hell of a TikTok dancer. He's a wide receiver. And he goes up. Let's see if he can turn it around for Luke Fickell at Wisconsin. You lose 3 offensive linemen, George Fitzpatrick, Miles Walker, and Zen Mahalski. Zen Mahalski, now Indiana's starting right tackle, and these Indiana fans want to tell me I'm crazy that Indiana's in my top 25, just not high enough. You got Zen Mahalski starting on your offensive line, bro. And finally, a Buckeye legacy that I personally really liked. Patrick Gerd, who worked himself up from a walk-on to a scholarship player. He goes down to Cincinnati, hoping he can make a big impact this year for them. All right, let's get to the guys that came in. The single most important guy, number 1 on my list, Ethan Onyanwa. In my opinion, not just the most important, but will also be the most impactful. Of these transfers, this is a starting left tackle that you absolutely needed. You absolutely needed him because of misses in recruiting and small classes. And when we got to hear him talk over the spring, this is a kid who's got his priorities straight, in order. He reached out to Ohio State, which I absolutely love. And when he said it, like, oh, I reached out to Ohio State with this big smile. It's like, okay, this kid gets it. He's obviously enormous at 6'6", 330, but he's lean for 330. Really excited to see what Tyler Bowen, Marcus Johnson, and Charlie Dickey can do with him. At number 2, I'm going to go with Max Clare. And I know this wasn't a need, but the question is, by level of importance, how important was it you brought him in? So it wasn't important that you brought him in on the surface. But now that you have him, this is a game-changing deal here. Like, defenses are going to have to adjust to this piece that you've added onto your team. This is a Mackey award-winning, preseason Mackey award-winning guy. Like, this is a difference maker. You can play him all different ways. And in addition to that, with a young quarterback, having a tight end like this is it's certainly something, man. And because of all that, I think it's just really, really important. When you change the way they got to defend you, it just became super important. At number 3, I've got Big Bo the Buckeye Atkinson. Now, some people will disagree, like my brother is certainly one of them, that Caden Curry. So Kenyatta Jackson really came on in the second half of the year. It looks like he'll continue to improve and be a really good defensive end. Caden Curry, I think his smaller dose is a really good player. I felt uncomfortable with him playing 65% of the snaps. And I felt like transfer Logan George would have been pushing him for more of a 50-50 split. Either way, in my view, those were the 3 defensive ends. You moved CJ Hicks down. I don't feel he's going to be someone you can play a lot as a traditional defensive end. Many people disagree with me. That's fine. But now that you've brought in Bo Atkinson, I said immediately, and I stand by it, he's your starter with Kenyatta. It's Bo Atkinson and it's Kenyatta Jackson, and those are the guys that are playing 65% of the game. And now you get Caden Curry in the appropriate dose that I think he can be his best and works best to his skills. And I don't think that's a guy playing 65% of the snaps. So that's the way I think that's going to play out. And that is why I think that Bo Atkinson, who comes in at 6'6", 265, the same size as Jack Sawyer, an inch taller, and him and Kenyatta, now it looks really, really good out there to me. I like it. I'm feeling confident. And the way he came on last year, don't forget, Bo Atkinson, 2 years of eligibility. It's like, all right, we got a dude now, and this is really exciting. At number 4, I'm going to go with CJ Donaldson. Now, my worst nightmare was Ohio State with young, talented backs that I really am excited about in James Peoples, Bo Jackson, Isaiah West, soon to be Turbo Rogers, that they were going to bring in an older guy, a veteran presence in the room, just because he was an older guy and he was going to eat up carries because he was an older guy, but he was going to be a subpar back. And immediately when they got CJ Donaldson, I'm reviewing everything about CJ Donaldson going, here it is. This is my worst nightmare. Because to be honest, that's who he was at West Virginia. His yards per carry, his yards after contact, his lack of ability to create, his lack of shiftiness. It was all very limited. And what does Ohio State do with him? They get him in, they put the business on him, and we see this dude come out for the big unveiling in the spring game. He goes from 240 to 225, and man, did he look good. He moves different. He looks sleeker. He looked faster. He looked intimidating. It stood out. Like, that looks like a hell of a back now. And all of a sudden, I feel great about it. And now you got yourself a high-level trio. You got yourself a high-level trio with CJ Donaldson, James Peoples, and Bo Jackson, who I believe is the most talented of the three backs. And I think he's going to eat into a lot of those carries, not going to play the James Peoples roles last year. He'll get lots more than that. At number 5, I'm going to go with Logan George. Logan George out of Idaho State. You were looking at Kenyatta and Caden Curry. And after that, bare bones at the time, right? CJ Hicks hadn't even moved down. And you bring in Logan George. So that was pretty damn big when they brought in Logan George. I was wondering what it was they saw in him out of the FCS. Can't find much film on him. We got to see him in the spring game, and I think the guy's definitely got some tools. He can definitely play at this level. So pretty excited about him. Much more excited when they brought in Bo Atkinson. At number 6, Big Phillip Daniels. Again, at the time, I thought, and we all thought, they're bringing in this guy to be the starting right tackle. And he was going to compete with Ian Moore, who obviously finished his freshman year in a really good way, really exciting way, and he's obviously still making progress. But you got to figure Phillip Daniels was probably going to beat him out, and that's what it looked like. And that is before we saw that Austin Sareveld was practicing at right or at left tackle originally early in the spring, and then rolls out as the right tackle to start the game in the spring game. And now it looks more and more like he's either going to play right tackle, or maybe Tegra doesn't play right guard. You bump him in, and Phillip Daniels, if he emerges a little faster, if he gets it a little faster, because he didn't quite look like he's a little behind. That's what we heard when he first came in. That's what it looked like in the spring game. He's a little behind maybe what we originally thought. But it looks like Austin Sareveld going to start at right tackle. Nonetheless, having this massive Ohio kid at 6'6", 315, who has started a couple games in the Big Ten, in the system, you look at next year, like he looked pretty raw still, but if you look at next year where you're saying, okay, you got Carson Hinsman's gone, Ethan Anyanwa's gone, Tegra's gone, okay, Padilla at center, Luke Montgomery at left guard. Who's going to play right guard? You've got some candidates. You've got Jake Cook, Javon McFadden, Gabe Van Sickle. That doesn't sound great. Do you kick Austin Sareveld back in at right guard? And now you've got Ian Moore, Phillip Daniels, and maybe Carter Lowe for 2 tackle spots. Take Phillip Daniels out of that equation, and you're running really, really tight. So it was very important to bring him in, and that's why I've got him at number 6. At number 7, I've got Jackson Corville. It's Corville. That's the kicker from Miami, Ohio, a guy who has hit multiple 50-plus yarders in game. Now, people think that Jayden Fielding has a bum leg. He's certainly missed some kicks in some big moments, but he does not have a weenie leg, and I'm going to show you. This is some confidential film, and the first kick you're going to see here, Jayden Fielding. Now, this is, if you're kicking from the 50, that's a 60-yarder. He is 2 yards past. This is a 62-yarder, and Jayden Fielding got the leg for it. Again, that's got a rush. Look at the referee. Arms up. It's good. Now, the second one, this is lined up at the 48. So he's kicking from the 48. That's a 58-yarder. Puts the boot on it, and buddy, look at the referees. Arms up. That is in, and that's with a rush. Now, he played good in the playoffs last year. Kind of redeemed himself, right? Obviously made the big kick in the national championship game. But I think we've seen enough errors from Jayden Fielding that I don't know why that would be like, okay, this is just your job. I think this puppy's up for grabs. And can Can the kid beat him? Can the Miami kid beat him? Who knows? I think it was an important one. At number 8, Justin Terry out of West Virginia, the kid out of Pickerington North, 6'5", 338, 4 years of eligibility left. It's basically like you just brought this kid in last year as a freshman, and now he's a redshirt freshman. You got him in the system now, and guys like him and Phillip Daniels, we're over here taking 3-man offensive line classes, letting these kids walk out the door instead of bringing them in the system. A mammoth dude to just see if he works it out. If he, like a George Fitzpatrick didn't, okay, he leaves. You know what I mean? These are the type of guys that never should have left, but they did. Now you got a guy who understands not to let them walk and brings them back in Tyler Bowen. So whatever, all's well that ends well. We got the dude now, and he's getting it together. But he is my number 8. At number 9, I've got Eli Brickhammer. This guy gives you some benefit as a veteran, as a guy with professional experience, a guy who probably just really gets it. And I think that's why they brought him in. I think that's why they picked him. The dude gets it. He can run the scout team, free up Tavian from having to do that. And he's a heck of an athlete as well. Not much of a passer. We'll look for him to get much better, like everybody does, under Billy Fessler and Ryan Day. And at number 10, I've got Ty Howard. Ty, this is Bo Jackson's brother, who came in from Duquesne. He was all conference at Duquesne, 6 foot, 200 pounds, but certainly not a position of need in any way. The room is extremely talented. And because of that, I don't really see this guy ever being someone who makes it on the field in any real capacity. But I certainly like Bo's brother being able to come join the team, a local kid, an Ohio kid. So that's great. We'll also throw in the long snapper there, Grant Mills as well. We got a long snapper, technically our 11th guy. So to review, I've got Ethan Onyanwa, number 1, Max Clare, number 2, Bo Atkinson, number 3, CJ Donaldson, number 4, Logan George, number 5, Phillip Daniels, number 6, Jackson Corville, number 7, Justin Terry, number 8, Eli Brickhammer, number 9, and Ty Howard, number 10. And that is the 26th ranked portal class via 247, the 11th ranked portal class via On3. Now, when we look at that class, how many NFL players do you think you got in there? Max Clare, without a doubt, right? Ethan Onyanwa, for sure. Bo Atkinson, I would say for sure. CJ Donaldson, with that size and length, he has a good season at Ohio State. He'll definitely get a shot. Phillip Daniels, however he develops, he's got the tools, he's got the size. You might have 5 NFL dudes in that portal class. And I think they nailed it. As far as Ohio State's strategy in the transfer portal, I love the way they go about it. I would hate to be a team, and I have a hard time latching on to these transfers as it is, especially the ones that only come for 1 year. Like I'll never feel about Will Howard the way I do about JT Barrett, as frustrating as JT was, because he was a Buckeye for a long time. That I just can't warm up to somebody that fast. They've got all this other, you know why? Because you can Google Will Howard and up pops Kansas State uniforms. And it's just, I'll never feel that same way about a guy that comes into Ohio State out of high school. I'll never feel about Quinshon Judkins like I feel about Travion Henderson. I just can't. I tried. I can't. It is what it is. But I like the way Ohio State does it because of that. They bring in guys that are the right fit, and low in numbers. I would hate to bring in 20 guys like I see a lot of these schools. Most of them bring in 20 guys every cycle. I would hate it. I'd absolutely hate it. I'm a recruit out of high school type of dude. Moving along, but before we do, I'd like to ask you to please like the show for me, as well as subscribe if you haven't. Please double check if you think you're subscribed. Sometimes it knocks you off, and hit that bell. I make it a point to put out a reaction video whenever there's something that breaks. As soon as I can, I come to the studio, get a reaction video out. So set those alarm bells so you know when those come out, and you can watch them immediately. To get the latest breaking news, Ohio State will be giving out an honorary degree to the most famous person from Akron, Ohio, JUCK on LeBron James. LeBron James getting an honorary degree from Ohio State. The board will vote today, and they will vote yes, that he is going to receive a Doctor of Public Service degree for not just his Hall of Fame career, but for his impact from his hometown of Akron, Ohio, communities across the United States. Their statement: born in Akron, Ohio, LeBron is a professional basketball player with dedication to community engagement and improving the lives of children and families through education opportunities and community resource. Just as he's elevated the game of basketball, LeBron is refined philanthropy to create a revolutionary model for community building in his hometown of Akron, Ohio. Now, apparently this news came out in February. I missed it. I never saw this. I read this article today. It was on 11 Warriors. And they also add to that, James has been one of the most frequent athletic donors as for football, men's and women's basketball. They've been gifted Beats headphones, customized cleats, and shoes from James. Of course, he's got an honorary locker in the men's locker room at Value City Arena. And they got a wall with all the shoes that he's ever given them, the shoes that he's given them on that wall. Now, this is a lightning rod issue. People get furious about this. LeBron James, of course, did not go to Ohio State. And I think what makes people a little more angry is that LeBron James is a fan of the Yankees and a fan of the Cowboys. And one of those Ohioans that, if the Buckeyes weren't who the Buckeyes were, he'd be a Bama fan, right? He's just that type of dude. And I understand that. There is some truth to all of the complaints. He didn't give the Beats. He didn't give the shoes. Nike gives him the shoes. Ohio State, Nike's and Beats are doing this to generate the publicity that comes from it. I get it all. And there's truth to all of it. But when we look at it all, who's benefited from it? The kids have benefited in Akron, which people say that's not philanthropy. It's just a big write-off. The money didn't come out of his pocket. Like, the kids benefited. When we look at Ohio State, the players benefited. They got the Beats. They get the shoes. And we benefited because whether you like him or not, it helps us in areas. It helps us in recruiting. And you can say, what recruit has LeBron ever won for Ohio State? And he specifically has probably never won a single recruit, but that affiliation and that locker in basketball in the locker room and him being on the sidelines of football games, all of that and everything else that adds to what is cool about Ohio State or what draws people to Ohio State, that's just one more box. It's one more thing. And I want all the things we can get. In addition, it keeps us from wearing those hideous Jordan uniforms on a football uniform, which is me as a uniform guy. I can't stand. I hate it. It drives me crazy. Of course, I'm not a Michael Jordan fan like many of you. Can't stand him either. He ruined my childhood like John Elway. And I know I'm probably on the minority of that. I'm not a LeBron fan either, and I think he's far from perfect. But could you imagine how odd you might be if from the time you were 15 years old, everybody treated you like you were God's gift to earth? I was there, man. I'm from Akron. I went to St. Vincent St. Mary. That would probably mess you up. He has lived for 25 years like that now, right? Like the bulk of his life has been as that guy. You're God's gift to earth, man. And that's the way people act around him. It's weird to watch. And I understand people find it annoying, the Ohio State stuff. I get it. As you know, you consider yourself a diehard Buckeye watching this show, right? Think people who would watch this kind of a show in the month of the year where nothing's happening. Nothing is happening with Ohio State football on a day-to-day basis. And you're here anyway, like me, because this is our thing. And then you see a guy like that getting all the shine. And I get it. I understand it. But I think Jim Tressel said it best, which is you could just put that line on repeat. Matter of fact, I want a shirt that says that. Jim Tressel said it best. And it doesn't even need to have a next line because it's just true, right? You guys would get that. You guys would understand what that meant. If I had a shirt that said, Jim Tressel said it best, everybody else would be like, what'd he say? And you would get it. To my point. But he said, look at LeBron. LeBron's here on the sideline. It must be a big deal. We must be a big deal. And that's what it is. We talked about the defensive line recruiting in 23, 24, and 25 the other day. I said I wasn't going to read the comments because of the the Larry militia that, like, if you say anything that's not 100% positive about Larry Johnson, they get super offended, and boy, they get personal about it, get nasty about it. So I ended up going to read them anyway before the show today. And I think by and large, a lot of people are of the opinion this has kind of got to be the contract ends this year, and this has got to be it, or there's got to be a coach in waiting brought in, or a similar situation like what's going on with the offensive line. And I agree with all that. I think it's probably a year too late for that kind of situation. I wish it would have happened last year, but you can see the situation Ryan Day's in, and it's not easy, man. And now you got a pile of guys. You need a big talent infusion, and you've got a bunch of guys out here that are being told Larry Johnson's not going anywhere. Like, Larry Johnson came out over the spring and said he never even thought about it, never crossed his mind, and I believe him. I don't think that's just so people hear that. He just seems to me like a dude who wants to work forever. And I love those kind of guys, man. So if you want to keep him around the program, you got to get him a structure in place like you got on the offensive line, which is working great. But these recruits right now, like we heard Caden Curry over the spring, I came here to play for Larry Johnson. What are you telling these guys now? You know what I mean? Like, what are you telling them? Like, if they're telling them Larry's going to be here for your 4 years, they can't possibly be saying that, right? If I'm a parent of one of those kids, there's no way I'm believing that. My kid might, but I'm not going to believe that 72-year-old is going to be there at 76. So interesting to know what they're saying. I might should ask one of them, but it almost feels kind of like you don't want to ask a question and put something in their mind that might negatively hurt Ohio State, right? So maybe I'll just not ask that question. But Ohio State offered the number one defensive lineman, Lamar Bowman, last week. Not the number one in 2027, the number one in 2026. They had never made contact with him, never offered him. So that offer came from Matt Patricia. And Matt Patricia told the number one defensive lineman, Lamar Brown, the Buckeyes should have already offered you, and he wanted to make it happen. So you didn't offer the number one guy. Matt Patricia comes and makes it happen and offers him. Obviously way too late. Kid's not going to be interested at all. But I feel like the defending national champion Ohio State Buckeyes have every right to be in on the recruitment of the number one at every position, especially the defensive line when you need a talent infusion. So tell you what I like is it's clear Patricia's getting involved in this, and that's great. And the way we've seen these recruits react to Patricia so far, I love it. But again, the good news is you come out of this with Deuce Gerald's or PJ Dean or both of them, and you might lead for both of them right now. It feels like that's kind of a definitely Deuce. I think you definitely lead for Deuce. And PJ, the way he's talking, it sounds like you could get both of those guys. Now, that's huge. You need those two. You get those guys in one more chunk piece in the middle, like a Preston Carey or a Cam Brickle, one of those 300-pounders. Obviously, JJ Perez is off the board. I'll hear nothing of that. Like, Buckeyes are still going to get him for a visit. The kid's gone. That's it. He's gone. But if you can get Cam Brickle or Preston Carey, one of those 300-pounders, with PJ Dean and Deuce Gerald's. Now, at edge, Jake Krull, Carter Meadows. Jake Krull, I don't think, Bucks might be pretty high for him, but I just don't know. But Carter Meadows and Luke Waffle are the two big dogs we need on the edge here. And the fact that both of these guys are Midwest recruitments, I consider them both Midwest recruitments. Carter Meadows, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and South Carolina. That's a Midwest recruitment. You can't lose a Midwest recruitment for a 5-star that you need. Luke Waffle, a kid out in New Jersey, Penn State, Ohio State, Texas, USC. Again, but the Midwest recruitment, you got to win. You got to win. So those are so big. And I hope Patricia's involved in those as much as he is in this. And I think he is. I believe it's all hands on deck for this defensive line class right now. I really do. So there are some really talented guys. Ohio State's getting a ton of official visits from a lot of these guys. Get Carter Lucky in there, Damari Simeon. Like, Dudes after dudes after dudes. Hard Knocks was going to film at North Carolina in Bill Belichick's first year, and I was ecstatic. I love that kind of footage, and I especially love it for college football. We've seen a few of them. There was one on Ohio State back in the day on like ESPN. It was pretty cool. Didn't get as in-depth as we've seen them get progressively throughout the years. There was a couple of good ones with Notre Dame, and this one upcoming with North Carolina. I would have loved to see Belichick's transition and what he's doing. Now, we've known for a while that Belichick's little girlfriend, Jordan Hudson, got that Hard Knocks deal killed. The Hard Knocks producers kind of alluded to it a little while back when they said that, they were asked about her, and they said the conversations took a turn we were not comfortable with. Well, according to Catherine Roman of the New York Times, those conversations that they were not comfortable with was Jordan Hudson wanted partial ownership, and she wanted to have final content approval, which is something Hard Knocks doesn't even do for NFL coaches and GMs. But she thought she could get that done. So they pulled the plug. They also found out she was double dealing. She was trying to leverage one against the next as she was dealing with another company named Ever Wonder, who produced the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight, in trying to leverage these two deals against the other. And she killed it both. Like, there's no Ever Wonder 24 or Hard Knocks coming out. So she blew them both up, because that's what happens when you let a 24-year-old cocky idiot take control of a college football program. This girl fancies herself some business dynamo. You can see clearly she's attached herself to Belichick and wants to show the world how amazing she is as a businesswoman. This is humiliating, man. Could you imagine? Put this to Ohio State, and you can't put it to football because it's totally different than UNC football. Basketball. Say Ohio State hires Steve Kerr to coach the basketball team. That's the equivalent here. Ohio State brings in Steve Kerr to coach the basketball team. He's got this little 24-year-old girlfriend, and she is running this kind of stuff at Ohio State basketball. I would be mortified. All right, guys, I think I've run my mouth a little too long, so we will do the SEC power ratings tomorrow, as well as go over, in addition to whatever else comes up, a little bit of this the situation with Tennessee and what they're trying to do, which is just so shameful. I guess I've got to get into it now. We're in the end, the home stretch of the House settlement being approved. And Tennessee, obviously, most of us, I think, want some more normalcy into how NIL works, which is like we want the schools to be paying the players through the schools' revenue sharing, and we want the players to be able to go out and earn real NIL deals, the way this was always intended. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. NIL deals being disguised as an NIL deal, but it's really pay for play. I think most people would like to see that go away. And in an effort to do that, the clearinghouse is the solution that they've come up with, which is if you have an NIL deal that's over $600, you submit it to the clearinghouse, and it has a database of all kinds of deals that have ever been done, and it'll match up similar deals to the one you're doing, and it'll spit out a price range that should be between $40,000 and $50,000. And the player is getting $150,000 for it. Well, they say, whoa. They send this to the enforcement arm, and the enforcement arm says, all right, listen, you're going to have to adjust that deal because if you take that 150, you're going to be ineligible. Now, this right here eliminates a ton of pay for play should it work, but it will immediately be challenged and go to the court, where it will either be upheld or it will get shot down. If it gets shot down, we're back to square one. The state of Tennessee, at the urging of the University of Tennessee, has tried to ensure that they can pay for play as much as they want. Obviously, no shocker, Tennessee, the ones who blatantly paid Nico a ridiculous amount of money and got burned, and they should have, rightfully so. They're trying to get out in front of this and skirt the rules before they even come into effect. Earlier this month, their governor signed a bill which made it so the collectives at Tennessee and Vanderbilt and Memphis and any school in Tennessee don't have to cooperate with these rules. they get to tell everybody else, sorry, our state government doesn't allow us to comply with your rules. Well, the power conferences have known this was coming, or somebody would try to do this. So to combat this, they have, Ross Dellinger released, they got a report that said they're all circulating a document. Schools will have to waive their rights to pursue legal action against the enforcement entity. And if they don't, one AD said, you have to sign it or we don't play you. So what's Tennessee going to do? Are they going to sign it? Are they going to try to take more legal action so that they can cheat? Tennessee is scum. They're absolute scum. Now, some will say what this settlement is asking them, the schools, to do is illegal. It's asking them to cap what one particular set of people is making. That's the players. It's asking them to put an artificial cap on it. And that is what the court will decide is legal or not when it goes to court. Some will say, if I'm a business, how are you going to tell me I can't pay that kid $100,000 to do these commercials? I can only pay him $10,000. How are you going to tell me that? I can do whatever I want with my money. Well, they're not telling you that if you're the business owner. They're telling the kid he can't accept it. You can pay him whatever you want and he can take it. But if he does, he's not going to be eligible. And he's going to take him to court and we'll see if he wins or not. And that is what this is hinging on. Some will say if this clearinghouse works, then the money just goes under the table again. We just go back to how it used to be. There definitely will still be some people who get paid under the table. But remember, those payments under the table, what were the huge numbers? The huge numbers were like $100,000. A lot of those guys were getting bought signatures on signing day for like $10,000 and $20,000 for really good players. $10,000 and $20,000 does not move the needle at all for these players. These guys are getting $200,000 from revenue sharing, up to way more than that. So now we're talking those under the table cash deals are going to need to be big. And there's not going to be a whole lot of players that command those kind of big numbers. So while there still will be some of that, there always will be. I think the percentage of how much that happens will go way down. But I really can't stand the people that are pushing back against this. Like, why won't you root for this? You know what I mean? Like, everybody should be rooting for this. Who doesn't want this to work? I want it to work. ESPN's Jay Billis is one that does not want it to work. And this moron talks about basketball, which is trashed. Basketball is trashed. The roster is different every year. These dudes all transfer like 4 times. It's horrible. And he's out here saying, like, our sport's fine. Look at the NCAA tournament. It continues to go up. Dude, the NCAA tournament is ingrained in American culture. It's got nothing to do with the sport even. People are looking for buzzer beaters and upsets. And it's like the 4th grade Catholic school teacher fills out a bracket. It's American culture now. Nothing to do with the sport, which is decimated. It's decimated. Everybody I talk to who used to be a college basketball fan hates it. I don't even watch it. Anyway, Tennessee sucks. They always try to circumvent rules. We'll go over my SEC power ratings tomorrow. I appreciate you guys, and I'll talk to you then. JUCK and Bucks out.